So, what do we mean by end? Right? I think that's the final question, is what do we mean by end? Ham and Clove talk about ending the entire play, right? If you have not yet watched the version that I have proposed for you on YouTube, I really recommend going back, one, and looking at those monologues, right, for the three characters, all of which have to do with some sort of finality, some sort of ending, some sort of finishing of something, right? I think that this is a subject that Beckett treats a lot. The idea of ending and people knowing where you are and where you have been and what you're doing and what you have done and what it's going to mean when nobody is there at the end, right? Ham begins his last soliloquy, sort of the way that the play begins for him, right? He ends it with a me to play again, right? This idea of it's my turn, right? My turn, it's my move. And then at the very end, he continues that, right? Me to play. And in the English version, right? Old end game, lost of old, have done with losing, right? So I think for Ham, there's this idea, one, of finality, but then there's also the playfulness, if you can call it that, of, again, he is playing a role. At the very beginning of the play, he says, me to play. It's my turn, my game, my role, my time to shine, whatever you want. And he ends the same way. And when he calls to Clove at the very, very end, right, he, first of all, as soon as Clove is finished with his monologue and they leave, and he says, oh, we're obliged to each other now, can you cover me with the sheet again? No? Okay. Well, then let's do this, right? He basically says at the very, very end, since we're going to play it that way, let's play it that way. Is this a reference to things being finished, or is this a reference to, fine, I'll play my role, I see you, Clove, even though I can't see, right? I know that you're there, I know that you're standing with your umbrella underneath your arm, your suitcase in hand, you're ready to go, you're not going anywhere, though. And I think that what we see, though, is that, Clove has already said recently, right, that, well, I guess I'll never go. I guess I'll never leave. I'm ready to go, but I won't do it. And it echoes very much what we saw at the end of Waiting for Godot, this idea of let's go, time to leave, we're going to go. And do we end believing that we're going to be back here again the very next day, right? That Ham has now covered himself with his rag again, and that Clove is going to stand there, look at him, and he's going to go cover him with the sheet, and then come and take the sheet off again, right, in the morning, and they're going to play this whole thing again. I think it really depends on how we feel, how we interpret what we have seen, and also how we personally feel. This play to me has always felt very cyclical. It's always felt like it spins in circles and circles and circles and circles, but that there is some sort of winding down, there is some game, there is something that, eventually has to end. Nothing can go on forever. I think that the idea that time is moving here is a little bit illusory, right? Are we sort of in no exit situation where this is a hell that they will repeat over and over and over again, that they will never be done with losing, right? This end game, they lost a long time ago, but the punishment is not the losing, it's the fact that they've lost the ability to leave. They've lost the ability to go on, right? And that may be me, it may simply be my interpretation of it. I would be very interested this week, right, to see your ideas about this in the group discussion, right? Are we done? does this play end? Ham completes his soliloquies. He completes his story. He creates and curates. He's been creating and curating since the very beginning of this play, carefully choosing words, carefully choosing the way that he wants to interact with people. Do we believe that Nell has actually died in her trash can, even though Clove has gone up and said he thinks, yep, looks like she's dead, and that Nag is not dead, he's just crying in his trash can, right? Do we think any of this is real? How do we rely on this, on the vantage points of everybody else? There's a moment in the play where Ham is talking about an old person that he used to see, and he's talking about this person he went to see in an asylum, and he described all of these wonderful things to him because he couldn't see them, and all he ever saw were ashes, and that it's not such an unusual thing to have happened in the world. Are we in this situation? Is that where we are now? That Clove looks out, he sees, but he only sees what he kind of wants to see at this point in time. Are they capable of seeing what's around them? Are they perhaps in a place where they could leave, but they simply have lost the ability to do it? I had a student the last time I did this class who suggested that it was entirely possible that this entire thing was nothing but a hallucination by Ham, right? All he is doing is simply reliving memories over and over again as he sits in an asylum, right? That this is all made up in his own head. And I think that could be true, right? Absolutely. I think that this play speaks to you the way that it speaks to you. I think that a lot of these plays are going to speak to you the way that they speak to you. Some have a little bit more direction to them, right? It's harder to not figure out, right, in Rhinoceros that there's a lot of allegory, right? But in these two plays, right, Waiting for Godot and Endgame, I'm just not sure that there is as much direction as there is in other plays. And I think that this really does, these two plays really do put us in front of our own emotional interpretation of what's going on, right? That Beckett probably knows how he wants it to be, but he also knows that he doesn't really have, I suppose, the right or the ability to tell us how we should be interpreting this. He has every right to tell us how the play should be played, right? This is the way he wants it played. But your interpretation of it is going to be your interpretation. And I think that's very, very important. So in the last video for this week, I am going to make some commentary on the video that the group proposed to us. But there is not that much more that I really want to talk about with the end of this play. I would very much like you, right, like I said, to watch the entire thing through. I'd love for you to talk with your group about sort of that idea of interpretation and where we are and how we've ended and what the interpretation is going to be of sort of where we are and how we have ended, right? Have we ended? Is this it? Or is this a cyclical, play? So, there you go. Next video will be a response to the class video posted earlier